Dr. Marcus Brennan's pulse thundered in his ears as he locked eyes with the colossal male lion positioned merely 20 feet ahead. 17 years of wildlife veterinary practice in Tanzania's Serengeti plains had ingrained one absolute truth. A male lion guarding a cub represented the savanna's deadliest threat. Yet this September 2024 encounter shattered every behavioral pattern he'd studied. The lion wasn't attacking, wasn't roaring, wasn't adopting the aggressive stance preceding a kill. Instead, this magnificent predator paced frantically, repeatedly glancing at something hidden in the tall grass before returning his penetrating gaze to Marcus. Most astonishing was his vocalization, not roars or snarls, but guttural grunts and chuffing sounds typically reserved for pride communication. "He's communicating with me," Marcus whispered, his scientific curiosity momentarily eclipsing survival instinct. Minutes earlier, Marcus had been performing routine blood work on a sedated rhinoceros when his radio crackled urgently. "Dr. Brennan, critical situation at western sector near Grumeti River. Male lion exhibiting aberrant behavior, approaching tourist convoys instead of retreating. All visitors evacuated immediately." Marcus responded instantly, commandeering a research vehicle while his team finished the rhino assessment. Abnormal predator behavior often signaled disease. Rabies, distemper, or tuberculosis could transform behavior patterns, endangering both wildlife and humans. What awaited him at the western sector, however, defied his entire career's experience. The male lion, instantly recognizable as Kasai, a dominant male they'd tracked for 6 years, had stationed himself beside the dirt track, deliberately attempting to attract human notice. When vehicles approached, rather than vanishing into grassland as wild lions naturally would, Kasai advanced toward them, vocalizing continuously. The behavior was so alarming that rangers had correctly evacuated all. Tourists fearing illness or injury made him dangerously unpredictable. Standing outside his vehicle with medical supplies, Marcus attempted deciphering the lion's behavior. As a wildlife veterinarian, he'd mastered reading animal body language with exceptional precision. What he observed in Kasai wasn't aggression, it resembled desperation. Following the lion's repeated glances, Marcus cautiously raised his binoculars, scanning the area beyond Kasai. His breath caught at what materialized. A small lion cub, approximately 3 months old, lay nearly motionless in the grass. Even from this distance, Marcus detected the cub's labored breathing and abnormal posture, indicating severe distress. A sudden memory flashed. 3 weeks ago, reports of poachers using poisoned bait near the river. Could this be connected? The situation contradicted conventional lion behavior understanding. Male lions rarely demonstrated protective interest in cubs, frequently killing cubs sired by rival males when conquering prides. Yet Kasai, a prime dominant male, clearly attempted drawing attention to this suffering cub. More perplexing still, Kasai appeared specifically seeking human intervention. "Impossible," Marcus muttered, though evidence before him suggested otherwise. Making a decision violating every safety protocol in wildlife management, Marcus began speaking aloud in the calm, steady voice he employed approaching injured animals. "I see the cub, Kasai. Is that what you're showing me? Your cub is sick." At Marcus's voice, the lion's demeanor subtly shifted. The pacing slowed, agitated tail movements calmed slightly. Most remarkably, Kasai took several backward steps toward the cub, then looked expectantly at Marcus. In that moment, Marcus made a decision later described as either profoundly reckless or extraordinarily courageous. He began slowly advancing toward the lion and cub, maintaining his steady stream of calm vocalizations. "I'm going to help if I can. I need to. Examine your cub." Every step closer sent adrenaline surging through Marcus's system. At this distance, Kasai could cover the ground between them in mere seconds. A single swipe from those massive paws could sever arteries or shatter bones. Marcus had personally treated rangers surviving lion attacks, witnessed the devastating damage these predators inflicted. Yet something deeper than professional training guided him forward. In 17 years of wildlife medicine, he'd developed an almost supernatural connection with animals under his care. His colleagues joked that Dr. Brennan spoke lion better than anyone in the reserve. Now that intuitive understanding whispered that Kasai wasn't threatening. He was pleading. At 15 feet away, close enough to smell the musky scent of the adult lion, Marcus paused. Kasai had settled into a sphinx-like position, his massive body creating a barrier between Marcus and the cub, yet positioned, allowing visual access. The lion's eyes remained, fixed on Marcus with an intelligence transcending natural species boundaries. A strange thought crossed Marcus's mind. He'd read about similar incidents in India with tigers, but never documented with African lions. "I need closer proximity to diagnose the problem," Marcus said, maintaining the calm, steady tone. "I won't harm your cub. I want to help." As if comprehending, Kasai performed something later analyzed and debated by wildlife behaviorists worldwide. He stood, took several lateral steps, and created a clear path to the ailing cub. Marcus's professional assessment activated as he closed the remaining distance. The cub, a male with early mane beginnings visible around his neck, displayed clear poisoning signs. Symptoms matched wildlife affected by agricultural pesticides or carbofuran sometimes deployed by poachers, the same substance reported near the river recently. "Poisoning," Marcus confirmed aloud, kneeling beside the cub while maintaining awareness of Kasai's position. The adult lion had moved closer, watching Marcus's every movement with intense focus, showing no aggression. The cub's condition was critical. Without immediate intervention, death was certain within hours. The appropriate response, according to wildlife management protocols, would be sedating the adult lion, then treating the cub in controlled conditions. But Marcus had no tranquilizer gun, and waiting for backup would likely mean losing the cub. "I have emergency treatments in my kit," Marcus said, making a decision simultaneously honoring his veterinary oath and violating every safety protocol in wild predator management. "I need to retrieve my bag. I'll return immediately." Moving with deliberate slowness, Marcus returned to his vehicle, retrieving his medical kit while radioing his position and situation to Ranger headquarters. The response was immediate and emphatic. "Dr. Brennan, maintain your position inside the vehicle. Do not approach the lions again. Your team is deploying to your location. ETA 20 minutes. "The cub doesn't have 20 minutes, Marcus responded, already moving back toward the lions with his medical kit. "I'm proceeding with emergency treatment. Kasai is displaying non-aggressive behavior. He specifically sought human intervention." The radio erupted with protests and warnings, but Marcus silenced it, focusing entirely on the critical intervention before him. As he approached, Kasai rose again, watching him intently, maintaining distance allowing cub access. From his kit, Marcus prepared an atropine injection, the standard emergency treatment for this poisoning type, along with activated charcoal solution to absorb remaining toxins in the cub's system. Each movement was accompanied by steady explanation, as if the lion could understand his intentions. "This will counteract the poison. It might be uncomfortable, but it's his best chance." As Marcus administered the injection, the cub flinched weakly, emitting a small, distressed mew. Instantly, Kasai responded with a low warning growl, taking a step closer. Marcus froze, syringe still in hand, acutely aware he was now within striking distance of the massive predator. The air grew thick with tension. "It's okay," he said softly, remaining absolutely motionless until the growl subsided. "I know that hurt him, but it's helping. I promise." What happened next would be the first of many moments during this encounter, defying conventional wildlife behavior. Understanding. Kasai approached closer, positioning himself to observe Marcus's hands as he prepared the activated charcoal solution. The lion's behavior suggested not just tolerance of human presence, but active observation of the treatment process, almost like a concerned parent in a hospital. As Marcus carefully administered the oral medication to the barely conscious cub, he became aware of the extraordinary nature of this scene, a human veterinarian treating a wild lion cub under the watchful eye of an adult male who had apparently deliberately sought human intervention. It contradicted everything known about wild lion behavior, yet the reality was unfolding before him. The initial treatments complete, Marcus assessed the cub's condition. The prognosis remained guarded. While emergency medications would help counteract the poisoning, the cub's small body had absorbed significant toxins. Full recovery would require comprehensive care, impossible to provide in the field. The sound of approaching vehicles broke the extraordinary tableau. Marcus could hear the distinctive rumble of the park's specialized wildlife response units. The DART team he'd requested was arriving, likely accompanied by additional rangers for security. Their arrival would transform this unprecedented one-on-one interaction into a controlled management situation. Kasai heard them too. The lion's ears swiveled toward the sound, his body tensing with obvious concern. Marcus realized he had perhaps 5 minutes before the team would disrupt the remarkable trust somehow formed between himself and the massive predator. "Help is coming," Marcus said, maintaining the calm tone seeming to reassure the lion. "But I'm concerned about how Kasai will respond to a large team." He spoke aloud, partly to keep the lion accustomed to his voice, partly to work through the unprecedented dilemma he faced. Standard procedure would call for sedating both lions, straightforward from a management perspective, but potentially traumatic for animals already in distress. More concerning was Marcus's growing certainty that Kasai had deliberately sought human assistance, behavior so extraordinary it deserved respect rather than override with standard protocols. Making another decision later scrutinized by wildlife management authorities, Marcus retrieved his radio. "This is Brennan. I need the approaching team to stop at least 100 meters back. Cut engines, minimal personnel approach, just Dr. Kaimathi with the medical transport equipment. The male lion is non-aggressive, but will likely respond defensively to large team presence." The radio crackled with concerned responses, but the authority in Marcus's voice and his reputation as the reserve's most experienced wildlife veterinarian prevailed. The approaching vehicles fell silent, and minutes later, Marcus spotted his colleague, Dr. Zara Kimathi, carefully navigating the savanna grass with specialized wildlife transport carrier and additional medical equipment. Zara froze when she spotted Marcus kneeling beside the lion cub, with the massive male just feet away. In her 12 years as a wildlife veterinarian, she had never witnessed anything remotely similar to the scene before her. "Marcus," she called softly, maintaining her distance. "What's happening here?" "Something extraordinary," he replied, carefully monitoring Kasai's reaction to the newcomer. The male lion had risen to standing position, his attention divided between Zara's approach and his cub's condition. "The cub's been poisoned, likely carbofuran from the symptoms and recent poacher reports. I've administered atropine and activated charcoal, but he needs comprehensive care at the facility." Zara slowly set down the transport carrier and additional medical supplies, her trained eyes never leaving the adult lion. "And the male? Why isn't he attacking?" "He sought help," Marcus said simply, knowing how implausible it sounded despite evidence before. "Them? He's been trying to get human attention for his cub. He led me directly to him and has been observing the treatment." Scientific training made Zara hesitate to accept such interpretation, but the scene before her defied conventional explanation. A wild male lion was voluntarily allowing humans near his cub without displaying aggression, behavior contradicting everything known about lion paternal responses. A hypothesis formed in her mind about changing predator cognition due to increased human presence, but this seemed beyond adaptation. "We need to transport the cub to the medical facility," Marcus continued, "but I'm concerned about separating them given this unusual attachment." The cub's condition was deteriorating again, despite emergency treatment. His small body convulsed slightly, a neurological response to poison still in his system. The reaction drew immediate response from Kasai, who moved closer with a concerned vocalization rumbling through the savanna grass. "We don't have time for debate," Zara said, her medical training overriding theoretical concerns. "That cub needs intensive care now." Together, they prepared the specialized transport carrier, a reinforced container designed specifically for safely moving injured predators. The challenge wasn't just treating the cub, but managing Kasai's response to seeing his cub placed in the carrier. "I need to explain what we're doing," Marcus said, turning back to the male lion, maintaining direct eye contact. with Kasai. He gestured to the carrier while speaking in the same calm, steady tone he'd used throughout the encounter. "We need to take him to get more help. He's very sick." What happened next would become the focus of multiple scientific papers and endless debate among wildlife behaviorists. Kasai approached the carrier, sniffing it cautiously, while Marcus and Zara remained absolutely still. After a thorough olfactory inspection, the lion stepped back, his posture relaxing from vigilance to what appeared to be acceptance. "He understands," Marcus whispered, though his scientific training resisted such anthropomorphic interpretation. With extreme care, they transferred the nearly unconscious cub into the carrier. Throughout the process, Kasai maintained his position several feet away, watching intently but showing no aggression. His behavior defied conventional understanding of wild predator responses, suggesting a level of comprehension that most wildlife biologists would hesitate to attribute to even the most intelligent non-human species. "The cub needs to go immediately," Zara said, securing the carrier. "I'll take him in my vehicle." "What about the male?" It was the question troubling Marcus since this extraordinary encounter began. Separating Kasai from his cub contradicted the remarkable trust that had developed. Yet allowing a full-grown male lion to accompany them to the medical facility was logistically impossible. "We monitor him," Marcus decided. "I'll stay here while you transport the cub. Keep me updated on his condition. I want to observe how Kasai responds to the separation." Zara departed with the carrier containing the critically ill cub, leaving Marcus alone once more with Kasai. The lion's attention remained fixed on the departing vehicle, his powerful body tense with what Marcus could only interpret as concern. When the vehicle disappeared from view, Kasai turned back to Marcus with a questioning rumble. "She's taking him to get help," Marcus said softly. "Better help than I can give him here." What followed was an unprecedented vigil. Rather than departing once his cub was gone, Kasai settled into the grass near where the cub had lain, his massive head occasionally turning toward the direction the vehicle had taken. Marcus maintained his position, documenting the extraordinary behavior while providing updates to both the ranger station and the medical team now working to save the poisoned cub. 2 hours into this unusual companionship, Marcus's radio crackled with an update from Zara. "The cub is responding to treatment. Blood work confirms carbofuran poisoning, likely from contaminated water source or poisoned bait left by poachers near Grumeti River. We've started dialysis to clear his system. It's touch and go, but he's fighting." Marcus relayed this information aloud, maintaining the conversational tone he'd established with Kasai. The lion's ears twitched toward his voice, his amber eyes fixed on Marcus with an intelligence seeming to transcend natural boundaries between species. As evening approached, Marcus faced another decision point. Safety protocols prohibited remaining in unsecured areas of the reserve after dark, when predators became more active and potentially dangerous. Yet leaving without information about his cub's condition seemed a betrayal of the extraordinary trust that had formed. "I need to go now," Marcus said, slowly rising from his observation position. "But I'll return tomorrow with news about your cub." Kasai watched him retreat to his vehicle, making no move to follow or prevent his departure. As Marcus drove toward the research center, his mind struggled to process the day's events. 17 years of scientific training urged caution in interpreting the lion's behavior as deliberate communication or understanding. Yet the evidence he'd witnessed firsthand defied conventional behavioral explanations. At the medical facility, Marcus found a team of veterinarians and wildlife technicians working intently on the tiny cub. Advanced medical equipment, much donated by international conservation organizations, monitored vital signs, while dialysis machinery filtered toxins from the small lion's bloodstream. "His condition is stabilizing," Zara reported, reviewing the latest test results. The poison was concentrated, definitely intentional bait rather than accidental exposure. "If you hadn't provided field treatment when you did, we would have lost him." The timeline raised additional questions about Kasai's extraordinary behavior. Had the male lion been trying to find help for his cub for multiple days? Had he observed human vehicles and recognized them as potential sources of assistance rather than threats? Over the following days, the cub's condition improved dramatically. Marcus returned to Kasai's location each morning, finding the lion waiting in the same spot. The bond between them deepened through these daily vigils. When the cub was finally strong enough for a controlled reunion, Marcus orchestrated a meeting at a secure observation enclosure. The moment Kasai entered and saw his cub, the massive predator approached with extraordinary gentleness, greeting the small lion with tender head bumps and rumbling vocalizations. In the months that followed, Marcus's team documented the continuing relationship between Kasai and his cub. Unlike typical male lions who maintained minimal involvement with offspring, Kasai incorporated the young lion into his pride. Displaying ongoing protective behavior researchers had rarely observed in wild lion populations. The case study, published in the Journal of Wildlife Behavior under the title Cognitive Complexity and Cross-Species Communication in Panthera leo, documentation of unprecedented assistance-seeking behavior ignited fierce debate in the scientific community. For Marcus, the academic debate was secondary to the more profound implications of what he had witnessed. On the one-year anniversary of the extraordinary intervention, Marcus stood at his observation post at the western sector of the reserve. Through his binoculars, he watched as Kasai led his pride across the golden savanna, the once sickly cub now growing into adolescence beside him. When the adult lion paused, looking directly toward the observation post with that same intense gaze, Marcus felt the connection that had formed during those remarkable days, a bridge between worlds that most humans never experienced.